system on thought. Military science fiction podcast. Untold stories every Wednesday. Military science fiction podcast. Discussion, interviews, reviews, and rants. Military science fiction podcast.
This is another, we're doing a movie review, and we're going to talk about Soldier, the Kurt Russell film from 1998. And today you just get Josh and I.
Sorry.
Rick is off traveling, I know. And Jeff had some stuff come up, and our hearts and prayers are with him in that. But let me give this quick intro on Soldier, because Soldier came out at a little bit of an odd time. And there's a few different YouTube videos that we can link in the description that kind of talk about this. But this movie came out in 98. The Matrix came out in 1999. And I really hadn't appreciated like what this movie was up against until I was thinking about that time period. And like some other movies that came out at the same time, Sphere came out in the same year. Waterworld came out in 96, I think, like in the same time frame. And so like big budget science fiction just was not doing well. And so this movie, it was not big budget. It cost 60 million, but comparatively it wasn't a big budget film. And it was a complete flop. It did not, in the box office, it did not make any of that back. I think IMDb says it made 14 million box office. Like there's no telling what it's made since then. It's still, widely available on Amazon. Like one of the cool things, it's like an $8 multi Blu-ray DVD.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's what I was watching it on, was Amazon.
Yeah, your money is well spent, I think, for $8. Like I'm pretty sure I already have it, but I almost bought it again anyway.
Can I just say that the 90s was like the heyday for really like good sci-fi movies that were underrated and unappreciated at the time. And like this movie, like you said, it was a flop, but I think the phenomenon is crazy with cult stuff like this. Like I'm the lone guy probably that thinks Waterworld was amazing. I loved Waterworld.
Yeah, I liked it.
Everybody hates that movie, and I'm like, I love that movie. I'll watch it all the time. The old guy, when he's like, oh, and the explosion happens and the boat blows up. That's my favorite
jet
part.
Skis, I loved it.
Yeah. But like, I wish that there were more movies like this that weren't like B straight to Netflix crappy dialogue story movies, that are its own thing and not like reboots of other movies or poor takes on franchises, because like Soldier just on its own is a great movie, and the story's not like it's not big. It's very small. It's very self-contained. It's very easy to digest, and it's not something that you have to really understand really anything else about the universe. And I wish there were more movies like that you could just sit down and enjoy without having to watch 27 Marvel movies to get what's going on.
Well, and it felt like, if there'd been some kind of different production thing, or maybe in our day, this would be like a Halo 6 or something. Like they would try and take this movie and
for sure
shoehorn it into something else.
Right.
All right, let me finish the rest of my.
Oh, sorry.
I know. Well, see, I did some research here. Directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, written by David Webb Peoples, and I should have looked at more things that Peoples had written. I guess he was also a co-writer of Blade Runner. That was his main claim to fame. I don't know. I think there were so many rewrites on Blade Runner. I don't know that that's as special as it might be. But so starring Kurt Russell, one note on this is he had 104 lines of dialogue in this film and got paid $20 million.
That's nuts.
The movie didn't even earn back his pay, but it's still, we're very glad it exists.
Yes.
Gary Busey was Captain Church. Jason Scott Lee, Kane 607, who a lot of videos call him like the main antagonist. I actually don't think he's the antagonist, which we could talk about.
Yeah.
Connie Nielsen is one of the civilians. She was more famous in the two Gladiator films. I saw her eyebrows and was like, I know
that girl. Yeah, I said the same thing.
Yep. And then the husband, Sean Pertwee, played Mace Freeman, and I want to talk about that guy because that really felt like a whole bunch of stuff maybe got cut from that because all that made no sense to me.
Right.
And let's see what others. Michael Chiklis was in it, who you may know from The Shield.
Dude, as
And
soon as he popped up, I was like, holy crap, I forgot he was in this movie.
yep. And let's see. There's a lot of Soldier Number One, Soldier Number Twos that weren't named, which
Yeah.
was something I wanted to touch on. Like there are times this felt like it could have been like the opening to a video game franchise because they didn't like so many of the guys are just like faceless gas masks.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, why don't we start out with like what are your like because this is a movie I think both of us watched back in the day and now watching it fresh. What's your first impression of this?
Um, honestly, uh, uh, like you mentioned, if it was redone now, of course the effects would be better and all of that. But I think for the time, like the production quality was actually fairly good. There are some bits where especially when like the trash ships are dumping their trash, or some of the space shots where the CGI wasn't great, or the green screen was like very apparent, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think on par with the rest of the movies that were done in that era, the production quality was really, really good. There was a couple of shots, one in particular during the montage where I thought that the editing could have been a little better. Like one of the shots where the husband character who dies, he was
Spoiler alert,
looking,
sorry.
yeah. Look, it's 1998,
I know,
bro. Like,
I know.
but like the fade out, there was a fade out, and the shot with him like just was frozen, and it
Mhm.
didn't. It like I was like, nah, that kind of sucks. But like overall, I thought the production quality was pretty high. I mean, the dialogue was kind of it was it was not bad, but it wasn't great either. But it wasn't bad enough that it detracted from the movie. And there's a lot of movies that have like really nice, I don't know, say production quality, and maybe all the money went to that, and none of it went to the actors because they weren't, you know, delivering the lines
Mhm.
really well. But I thought the acting was really good,
Thought so too.
and like Kurt Russell's usually always amazing in anything that he does, and to be able to portray a more or less emotionless character, but still showing a lot of emotion at the same time, about the character and how the character thought, and even the scene with the boy, and he didn't even say anything in that scene. He just threw him a shoe and
Right.
told him to go at it, and you could immediately tell that he cared about teaching that boy something important about the place where he lived at. And it was very small. And he understood the need and the necessity for that kind of, say, violence, action against, the creature, the snake there. But, overall, I liked it. It wasn't the best movie ever. But as and the like I said, the story wasn't big, but it was contained to the character in a way that a lot of those smaller movies don't really get.
Mhm.
Right? Like they want to present a character study, or they want to make a small scale uh movie about a character, and the hero's journey, or the self-revelation, or whatever it is, path to redemption. Um, but they did that in this movie, and you don't even realize it really. It just happens so
He
gradually.
he doesn't deny the call. Like if we're going to follow the hero's journey, like he's kicked out of his life, so
Hmm.
you have stasis. He's kicked out of his life through no thing of his own. Like he's trying to do his best.
Yeah,
And then he has to come back. And I guess when the town kicks him out, that's kind of like, okay, he maybe is going to have to do something to change. But that's when, the crew shows up and he has to fight them all. And he gets to use his skills against the enemies. So you get like full
right.
circle retribution there. But
Yeah,
it is kind of an interesting take on the idea of the hero's journey, and that's one of the things about the hero's journey that I think a lot of people get hung up on the Star Wars of like, the old man arrives to give you a quest and you deny the quest and then you come back around to it. Well, I think I had read another thing. It might have been which book is it? I'll have to find the notes. Like, but basically it talks about stasis and out of stasis. And then once you're thrown out of stasis, that's where tension builds, and you have to like the character needs to make a decision to either go back to stasis, which is boring, don't do that, or come to some, through struggle and, overcoming obstacles, finds a new, a new way forward. And so,
Yeah.
you know, we've talked previously about like designing series, and this can be a lot of like book one is stasis, struggle, new stasis, new obstacle, move forward. And this story, like one of the things I thought was really interesting was that he does change, but not. It's not like you kind of keep waiting the whole time. Like I think one of the tensions in this movie is that he doesn't like you keep thinking he's gonna like bust out with some life story, or he's gonna, when the one of the characters like gives him a hug and he shakes violently because he can't deal with it.
Right.
And you think that he's going to maybe then open up and be like, I was raised to be, in a worse movie, I think I was raised to be a killer and I couldn't do, blah blah blah. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
he doesn't do that.
Right.
And I thought that worked really well. And it was a good mirror in the little boy. And the little boy doesn't do what he wants. Like in that moment where there's basically what's happening is like a snake is coming in, and the little boy was bit by a snake when he was little, and he doesn't talk now. And the snake is coming back. Like that was one of the things I thought was funny is like they need to get rid of the snakes. Like
Right.
you think they would have like an active campaign against snakes.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, the little boy, like he's trying to show the boy how to kill the snake with a boot, and the boy doesn't do it, and I thought that actually, like later on, the boy uses that to save the town, and that become or save his parents anyway, and that becomes a mechanism to bring him back after he's been cast out. But I kind of like that. I think it's good when you have you give a character like an easy button, and they don't take the easy button. That is something I always try to think about. Is like don't give them the easy button. Um, and I think this story has a lot of great undercurrents of. Sorry, I kind of jumped on your
You're
impression.
good. You're
Anything else you
good.
want to say? Okay, yeah. Um, this is one of the best. I shouldn't say one of the best, but it is a great like show don't tell about PTSD. And also a thing about PTSD, a lot of people don't always say, like adjustment disorder is actually a version of PTSD that basically is an inability to adjust to the outside world once you've been taught to do something a certain way. And that is a lot of a lot of times vets struggle with getting out of the military. And it's that inability to try and adjust to being out of the world, especially if you joined when you were like 17 or 18, like I
Yeah.
think we both did. Um, and so um, they're really showing that and how he's struggling with it, and he doesn't necessarily just fix it. And I kind of I like that.
There was I want to touch on I've got a couple of notes here that I wanted to talk about. One of them actually is the PTSD aspect that you were talking about, but from a storyteller's perspective, when you look at this and you mentioned being a book one in the series, this could be easily be a character study for a book one in a series dealing with this kind of situation or this kind of character. The beginning of the movie starts with really long kind of prologue slash exposition while you're to show who this character is and what he's been through and why he is the way he is. But as I was watching it this morning, I really felt like they could probably take all of that out.
Mm,
You could take the montage of them growing up as a kid, and showing these soldiers growing up and going through the experiences and all that. You could take all that out, and just start with maybe like I said before we started recording, just start with like the end of a battle somewhere and just show how capable they are, because they showed a lot of clips just showing how capable they were, but all of that was just to show that he'd been through a number of battles. But you don't
right.
have to show that. Like even the tattoo that he has on his arm, that would have been enough to say he's been through a number of battles. And all you really have to do is show one.
Hmm.
But you should use that element to show just how good this character is, just how um, uh, effective and not bloodthirsty, but raw he is. Like when he shoots the woman, like he uh, he shoots a hostage basically in one of these clips, And before that, we had seen that he was already willing to do that on the training round through the training montage where he shoots the female dummy.
Right.
And both of it's a redundant scene. We already know he's capable of doing that. So we don't need the training round. Just show that in the one clip of the one battle that we're doing, so you can see that he really doesn't have any moral quandaries about successfully completing the mission, no matter what. That would have been enough. And you see a lot of well, not a lot, but several flashbacks throughout the movie where they're showing clips of him doing different things, and that is directly related to the PTSD that he's dealing with. But they don't put a light on that. They don't really like go full bore and show this is PTSD and he's dealing with it and it's debilitating and it's hurting him as a person and all of that. They just show this is what he's dealing with. And I think showing it like that without putting a light on it, without saying this is what the movie's about. It's not about his PTSD. He does have it and he is like trying to work through it, but he does that with no dialogue. He does that with no real long character introspection where he's like dealing with this on some kind of like fundamental level and talking about it on the couch. Like it's just, this is it. And he's dealing with it. And he's dealing with it in the only way he knows how, which is just to internalize and push on and do the right thing. Um, but I really enjoyed that about this movie. That it wasn't about PTSD, but they did show it. And this was around the time where, I mean, PTSD it's always been a thing, but it's never been a really talked about and debated topic where it's like in the limelight and people are saying, oh, PTSD this and PTSD that and all of this. This was 98 and we knew that soldiers were dealing with it, but we didn't know to what extent and how bad it could be. And it was, or is now.
It was
So just having that in the movie was really good on the writer's part. But just to keep it subtle, like just
right.
let's we all know what it is. And even back then, probably there were people that didn't that knew fundamentally what it was, but didn't know that there was a title that went with it. Um, but also, on top of that, there were a lot of things that this movie did well in terms of storytelling, that a lot of movies don't, even today. And that is very subtle nods to things that veterans understand. The most important one that I found was the eating.
Hmm.
When they're eating at the table and he's just scarfing down his meal, and everybody else is just, I remember my first meal after I graduated basic, my first meal that I had, we went to Applebee's and I stacked plates and I stacked plates. And my family wasn't even done with their first one. And I was just, and I was done eating. And everybody else was like halfway through with their meal. And they're all looking at me like, what are you doing? What's going on? Like, I'm eating. I have to eat fast. And that was 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks of basic. And it was already like, and I still can't eat slow. I
I mean,
still sit down
I'll
and,
tease
and
Rick a little bit while he's not here, but that every time we have a meal together, like that guy is the fastest eater. And
dude,
I actively think about slowing down while I eat because I have to be
right.
the same way. Like if there's food in front of me, I'll just inhale it. And I don't remember eating it.
Right. Oh, dude, same way. Like there are times we'll go to a restaurant and I'll take a bite and then have to sit my silverware down and then sit back so that I'm not just because
Yeah.
I don't I learned how to cut meat in Europe,
Uh-huh.
and in Europe, it used to be a thing, but in Europe, when you eat, you always hold your utensils. Right. And so you're cutting with your right hand and eating with your left, and you've got your fork and all of that. Well, I didn't know until later on, and like I said, I don't know how prevalent this is, but there's a lot of Americans that will slice, put their knife down, and then switch hands, and then eat with their right hand. And so I'm sitting at a table just scarfing down food. But I liked that was in the movie, and
The other part of that scene I thought was really effective was like I want to talk about the relationship with the husband. But
Yeah.
he's the one who gives a crap the most about this guy and is trying to help him.
Yeah.
And I think I'm trying to remember the order of how they're showing information, but I think they've demonstrated at that point how precious food is to these people, and
Yeah.
he gives him his food. And that I thought was a really good way of just showing that without telling it as well. That they
Oh
want
yeah,
to help him.
dude. Yeah, and that's why like again, the story on a big picture base, the story is not really deep.
No.
Like it's really not. It's really an A to B. But the amount of storytelling that's in that story when it as it pertains to characters is just amazing. Like, and the way that they do it subtly and really without even making a big deal about it in terms of like screen time, because what's going on in like the scene that you're talking about doesn't have anything to do with the food.
Hmm.
It has to do with something completely different. And that aspect of him giving the food is a small thing that probably a lot of people didn't even pick up on, or even really take as a character moment. But that's what I think is really important when you're dealing with character development in your story, is that sometimes the tendency is to really focus on that character element and make it apparent when you're working on your manuscripts and your
Hmm.
characters, and I want to show that this character is a selfless person, and so you spend a whole chapter on whatever event it is, and you highlight that he's a selfless person. You're showing, right? You're not telling. But I think personally that you could find a way like they did in this scene where the point of the scene is something completely different, but you show a small thing in the scene about that guy giving the food, and that is huge in terms of character, but it takes like two or three sentences in a chapter to get that across, and your reader is going to pick that up, and subconsciously they're going to know that's a selfless guy. You don't have to you're not on the nose about it. You're saying, yeah, that's a selfless guy. That's really cool. um, but in the same way as subtle storytelling, when the bad guys show up and they're the the people are scared or whatever, um, kind of I think the tendency is to make that the, oh crap, we got to go find this guy. He's got to fight him. That's the only reason we want him back. And in this particular instance, that really isn't the case, because the dad and the mom, forgive me, I can't remember the characters' names, but they were already intent on bringing him back because of this small event with their son. And it was very personal to them. And it wasn't about saving the colony. We're not just going to go get him because he's the only chance for our survival. Um, but from a human standpoint, they understood what he was trying to do with their son, and that was enough for them. And that these flies are killing me. I don't know what Kansas is being infested right now. But I think that's really important in terms of storytelling. Like sometimes, yes, there are big events that call characters back, but sometimes those events could be overblown and kind of, we got to save the world type thing. And for these characters, it wasn't about saving the colony. When they made the decision to go ask him to come back, it was about, well, we knew what you were trying to do with our son, and we appreciate that. Please come back, and
Yeah.
we'll fight your battle with the cancel, um, for you, because personally for us that was a big deal for us. And I thought that that aspect of already going to bring him back by the time that the colony needs him was really powerful, um, because you could have easily just left that out and had him see the bad guys attacking, and then join the fray and then save him, and now everybody loves him, right?
Yeah, they didn't want to kick him out, and that was one thing I'm kind of glad they added that line of dialogue where she says the leader says, "We like you, but you just can't stay here. I'm sorry."
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that was something, and that was also a good basically comparison with his emotion. Like he's basically just like, uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
Right.
almost like, I mean, you maybe could almost have some like, spectrum comparisons here, like where
For sure.
he just doesn't, he's just not relating to them. Like he's a human, but he's not relating to the things that, or he can't, you can see. And I think that's what Russell does so good here is like, there is a lot of tension in his body that's like
Yeah.
communicating this. And I wanted to go back to the scene, There's like a scene where he's like, punching this piece of metal that
Oh
was
man,
pure 90s, like
brutal.
awesome, over the top, right? It's his punching
Right.
bag,
Yeah.
and all the kids are like watching him, like, whoa. And then Michael Chiklis, like, there's a previous scene that actually made zero sense to me. Like, why are we firing up a combine to, like, I guess maybe collect things that had been
Yeah, that was, yeah, I agree.
and they had this whole like extended sequence where Chiklis's clothes get caught and he's about to get like sucked into the spinning blades of the combine because there's this whole mechanism on the trash planet of like winds come up, right? And they're gonna blow you away.
Yeah.
And so he saves Michael Chiklis's life, and then Michael Chiklis has this scarf he wants to give to him, and it made me think of like when Jane gets the hat. Like this could have in Firefly, like they could have done something that where this would be a scene where he gets like the scarf and it softens him up. Well, no, Chiklis goes to actually chooses the worst time possible to go give the guy the scarf. He's like beating the crap out of the metal, and then Chiklis tries to get his attention, and he immediately grabs him and throws him down onto yet another piece of very dangerous equipment they have like around all these kids
Right.
with like a spinning windmill or something that's about to like smash his head. And you have to watch him in his face because he doesn't say anything.
Hmm.
Russell makes a decision like, "Oh, I gotta not kill this guy."
Well,
And
because right intercut into that was one of those flashbacks
yes,
from the battle where a guy came up behind him to kill him, and he's while he's doing this punching sequence is when they throw in some of these flashback sequences from the battle, and you could
right.
see without them hanging a lantern on it really and talking about it, they're showing while he's punching this metal thing, which I thought was interesting because it was actually just a punching bag that they
Right.
made sound like something metal.
I know. That was
Uh,
really good.
but you could see it, like you said, in his face. He has such a range of emotion on his face, and you could see that he is so angry inside about some of the stuff that's going on in his brain that when that guy shows up to give him the scarf, he's not in that room punching the thing. He's on the battlefield fighting the enemy, and he turns around and he sees the enemy. And that is such a powerful thing because again, people deal with that kind of stuff in real life, and it's not really it's an unreasonable reaction to a reasonable thing because of what they're going through. And to show that, and then the tense seconds where he's like holding that guy and the wheels like rolling towards him, and it's dramatic, and it's kind of it's 90s overly like um but it's so powerful, man. It's so powerful. I agree.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to go back to from the beginning, like from the very beginning of this movie in the first scene when it shows the babies, and then I think about like things to like hook somebody into a story from the very beginning. And I was like, oh, you see a baby, like what's going to happen to the baby? Like you immediately wonder, like, don't hurt the baby. It's like seeing a
Right.
seeing a pet. And
Yeah.
then when the nurse comes or it's an attendant comes in and picks up one of the babies and they're putting the numbers on them, like I was immediately drawn to that. Like, oh, what's she going to do? Is she going to save? Like, which way is this going? So I couldn't remember exactly. And so that whole piece I would say really worked for me. Like the place where I kind of really wandered was when it cuts to the scenes with Gary Busey and the two captains basically. Like I understand why I think from a budget perspective probably they had to go to an interior scene where they're basically in a gym and they're like we got some chains and we'll have them climb chains and fight each other. But there's a lot of talking, like they're all talking to
Right.
each other
Right.
um and so it really felt like I didn't know what to focus on. And I think maybe I just even missed at some point in the beginning that they were comparing the two fighting forces. And I also wanted to note like one thing I thought was super 90s in the flashbacks that was kind of funny to me. Like we're talking about establishing competence, right? And they're just all rolling through these battlefields with their M60s. And I love seeing an M60, but like there's like no movement, no
Oh,
nothing.
dude.
They're just
So when they went, so the first couple of sequences were on Earth, and then
right,
they go to a planet. And I think the date, I don't know, it's like 2036 or something like that, which is just funny to me. Like now looking at stuff, and you're like, ah, we're nowhere near that. But they're on this, it looks like it's supposed to be a moon, and
right.
they're walking around, and it looks like they're supposed to be in zero G, but they're obviously not in zero G. And the one thing that I thought was just the only shot in the movie where I'm like, this. it was Kurt Russell shot, and I'm like, this is Terminator, and it shouldn't be that. Was when he's walking on this thing and he turns to see these enemy coming up, but he does like it's a robot turn where he's
Yeah.
like straight to the camera, and it's like that was so unnatural and robotic feeling. And I get like he's in the zone. But again, they weren't tactical at all in any of those sequences. They were just walking through, shooting things. And what I thought was hilarious is it was 2036, whatever date in the future. But this might have been in the other sequences too, but it was right when he was getting ready to go start the fighting the bad guys, and he had his collection of kit out on the floor, and the gun at his feet was an M16A2.
Mhm.
And like I'm like, there's absolutely no way in 2040, whatever it is,
Oh,
that
there's
you're gonna.
totally they couldn't afford new equipment. That's why
Yeah.
we spent all our money on super soldiers. Sorry.
The only thing I saw like in my uh sh- looking at the thing, the only thing I focused on was the forward assist button on the side of the stock, and I'm like, oh my God,
Well,
like
there was
come
a
on.
scene with the when the kids are running, and there's the one that's fallen back, out of the formation.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
The whatever, it wasn't Gary Busey, I don't think it was one of the other captains, but he pulls up a radio to, like, of course, give the order to go shoot the straggler, and it's like a World War II handheld.
Right.
And but what I was thinking about with that whole chain scene, and this gets back to what you were talking about with, like, I do want to say, like, tactical movement, and we've talked about this as well. Like, I think there's a lot of storytelling and character building that can be done in tactical movement and, like,
Yeah.
demonstrating what they're doing. And if you've got a choice between having somebody just go into a situation, guns blazing, like, that's just not that interesting. Like, there's a lot more
Right.
you can do as far as, like, the character thinking about stuff, making a decision, using the equipment. What are the limitations of the equipment? What do they got to do? And so all that was kind of like, it's just ram. I mean, I got to keep thinking that, like, a lot of the ways that we see people move now, like, all that happened during the global war on terrorism. Like, there was a lot
Yeah.
of stuff that you just didn't see that kind of action. Like, I mean, a lot of World War II and Vietnam movies, I think they definitely weren't doing that. But then, Rambo came into play, and the whole, like, just taking on the enemy with two Uzis. And I guess it looks super
Right.
cool, but now we just have a very different standard, I guess, when we're watching that.
For sure.
But when you think about from a storytelling perspective, all that information you can give. And so when there's that scene in the gym with them, the highlight of that scene basically is when Kurt Russell, digs his finger into Jason Scott Lee's eye and digs it out. Like, okay, now we've set up a reason for Jason Scott Lee to hate him. But really, that never quite plays out. Like, Jason Scott Lee is just a soldier like the rest.
Right.
Like, he's as
Yeah.
much of a tool. So this whole conflict between the two leaders, like, I much would have rather seen that, even if they could have put it outside in a field and had them fighting some kind of war game, or something that just wasn't in a gym being static, listening to people talk. Like, that's the one piece for me I wish they'd done differently. And then it really felt like a bunch got lost on the cutting room floor when, so the husband finds him out in the desert and brings him back into the community, right? And then, of course, the husband has super hot wife and a little boy. And super hot wife is probably, a little bit freewheeling European, like, she's willing to give
Yeah.
hugs and,
Yeah. Yeah.
express free affection. And
Yes.
maybe that's cool in this community, whatever. But they keep cutting to the husband, seeing, like, Kurt Russell, I think, did a really good job of, he's looking at her, and the camera, even, like, there's a couple scenes where it kind of, like, goes across her lips and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that, because Kurt Russell, that's not what's inside him. Like, he's thinking, like,
100%.
these people show affection to each other, like, they like each other, like, what is this? I don't think in his mind he's ever thinking, like, I want to get with this lady. But
Agreed.
then they cut to the husband, who's got, like, kind of slight jealousy look on his face, and he's like, what's going on here? And that all felt totally unnecessary to me. Like, there was no need to do any of that. You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, it's honestly him having that jealousy arc or whatever you want to call it, and
yeah,
then like obviously they kill him off, and then at the end of the movie, Kurt is holding the boy, and it's obviously a nod to the becoming a father, and,
right.
and a family man, and all of that. But honestly, I think that they could have cut all that out, and they didn't. You can make Kurt Russell a father figure to the boy, or an inspirational figure to the boy, without having any of that in there, because like you said, And I was watching that too. I picked up on that when they're showing these shots of the woman hanging up clothes or whatever she's doing, and Kurt's watching her. He's not watching her with any kind of lust. He's
Right.
watching her with curiosity because he doesn't understand what she's doing. He doesn't understand uh like how she's looking at the world, because all he sees is tactical. Is it offense, defense? Do I need to act here? Am I safe here? This kind of thing. He's not looking at it from any kind of romantic aspect, because his character doesn't understand that.
Mhm.
His character doesn't understand romance. It doesn't understand it. You know, he might understand on some kind of level the attractiveness and that kind of thing, um, but that's never something that he's taught. It's not part of his life. His life has been 100% involved in the training, and that's all he knows. And I think that cut all that out, take the father dying, getting hurt, I think is okay. And then he saves him and brings him back, and showing humanity and compassion and that kind of thing. But you can have him be a part of that world and that family without taking out
Yeah.
the father figure.
I would have much rather they didn't kill the father and he was a linkage between, because you kind of, there's a lot of scenes like, okay, we haven't yet talked about, when he's battling the other platoon that comes in, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of scenes of the civilians just running around randomly. And I thought that, okay, he was a leader. He could have been like a linkage there, because there's also an endpoint when they get off the planet in the spaceship and they had planted this planet killer bomb and they're taken off and you don't know that the civilians are safe. Like there was no scene of getting the civilians onto the ship, and then they cut afterwards to like, oh, like 10 of them survived. I
Right.
thought that they could have used him and done some work in those scenes and like get like we have a plan to get them onto the ship if you guys take over the ship. um but
I
it
would
kind
have
of cut
really,
through all that.
I would have liked to seen the dad become a soldier,
Yeah.
in going from, because you have kind of a quasi transition from soldier to family man to compassionate human being. I would have loved to see the opposite happen at the same time
Hmm.
with dad, because you can see a little bit of his defensive nature in terms of like the first shot when actually I thought it was funny. There was a continuity discrepancy in one of the opening shots of Kurt, after he's on the planet, and they're playing with the boy on the floor from the shot where they're looking at the family on the floor, but on the side of the shot you see the doorway, and in the doorway Kurt's already standing there with his hands like this. And then the very next shot, the doorway is empty, and Kurt walks into the doorway and puts his hands like this. And I'm
Oh,
like, continuity.
yeah.
Somebody call the continuity director. But in that shot, you can see the dad kind of very subtly stand in front. He moves in front of his wife and his kid,
Hmm.
defensively, because they're not sure, who this guy is or what he's all about. Um, and I would love to have seen that expanded on, like take it from a very kind of unsure, I'm going to stand in front of you because this is what I know that I should do, but I don't really have any idea what I'm doing. Like I'm just a roadblock here, to go to, the dad rescue, he comes out to get him. Maybe there's a a sequence where, I don't know, maybe there's a bigger animal or something on the planet that they have to fight, in this very short sequence of, him getting kicked out before the bad guys get there, and dad has to pick up a gun and shoot or something like that, give him some kind of agency in the fight. And then when the bad guys get there, Kurt can take the father and like show him walk like
Yeah.
this, move like this. And the guy really
Yeah.
is not unsure, but
That
he's
could have been
still
that scene where he takes the rifle from him. Like that could have been something there
100%.
too,
100%. And I think honestly, like if you cut out all the stuff that I mentioned before, all the beginning stuff, the battles and I
Mhm.
mean, that was what, like 15 minutes, 10
Yeah,
minutes.
easily. I mean, it was 20 minutes before he arrived on the trash planet.
Yeah. So like a lot of screen time, and the movie's not that long. Like it's only an hour and a half or something, but in that 20 minutes of screen time, you could have done a lot with the characters on the planet, and that's what the story is actually about. It's not about Kurt's history, a soldier's history. It's about what happens on the planet. And I think showing his change, but also showing the colonist change or whatever you want, like I think that would have been a much better served uh focus of the screen time and the page time in a story, because now you're showing multiple different growths from multiple characters. I mean, the boy changes, the wife changes, the people in the colonies change, like he changes and all that stuff. But it again, like the story is not great. It's very simple in terms of like the macro level story. Like he saves the colonies, they go on to live happily ever after or whatever. But there's so many little story things that happen even in an hour and a half runtime. Um, that I don't know, like you said, maybe it did get cut on the cutting room floor. Maybe there was a lot of things that they wanted to do that they couldn't do because of the studio. You know, you never know really. With
One of
these
the
kind of
things
things.
they talked about, like definitely watch that 10 things about this movie if you get a chance, the video.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
apparently, like, and that's the thing, he didn't source any of his stuff, so I don't know where this came from. But the guy in that video says that Russell wanted to bulk up himself, and that was going to take like anywhere from 12 to 18 months. And they had scouted a bunch of locations, and in the time that they were doing that they paused production, a hurricane hit and like trashed a bunch of the locations.
Oh wow.
That's what led to so many of the interior physical, stages that they had, which I still think were very cool. Like
Yeah,
looking
they
at those
worked.
walls of stuff, like I just wanted to pause the screen and look at it and just imagine people setting all that up.
Oh, I mean, the set design was
Yeah.
phenomenal, especially for the colony because
Yeah.
they had to source all of their stuff from trash. And so like the sets that they built, like never one like there are movies that you watch where you're like, this is where we're at, and you look at the set and you're like, really? That
Mhm.
doesn't it doesn't ring true with what you're telling me. But this, like everything looked like it had been pieced together.
It
Everything
did
looked like it was.
from a science fiction perspective, it led me off on a tangent of like, why would we spend all that money to go dump old airplanes on another planet?
Oh, the aircraft carrier,
Bicycle,
like,
the bicycle. I know a whole aircraft carrier,
yeah.
which looks super cool, but
Actually, my one thought with the trash, when he first gets there, and like in my mind, I was like, okay, trash planet, fine. Why not just dump it in space? But uh, the ship is coming down, and he's in the ship, and you have the shot of the ship, and then you see the planet that's covered in piles of trash, and I'm like, okay, whatever. But then it goes to the inside of the ship, and you see him, and it pans back, and this whole big cargo compartment space of this ship that is the only thing this ship is doing is taking trash to another planet to dump it, and three-fourths of the space is empty.
right.
Like, why did you not like you're shipping it intergalactically? Fill that mother up, dude. Like that would be completely packed from floor to ceiling. There would be no movable space in that ship. Like I get it, like filming and you've got to show the character and the lights and all of that, but it's a trash ship, bro. Like there's no extra space in the trash truck. They compact that stuff down. Like
There's no oxygen in the trash truck. I mean,
dude, that like how did he like obviously they thought he was dead, which I don't understand how they thought he was dead. If like did they not run vitals? They just looked at him and saw him
we just
laying
threw it in
there and they were like, nah, he's done. Um,
the trash.
but how long did it take him to get from the training facility to the trash can to the trash truck to the trash disposal site to the loading it on the ship to taking the ship to space to getting the barge across the galaxy to wherever planet they were on, and then dump it? How long did that take?
I
Because I don't care how cool this super soldier is. Uh he he's got to eat, bro, and he's got to drink water. Like I
And
don't
he eats
care
a
if there's
lot. He eats a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
The last thing I wanted to touch on, we're about out of time, is the main antagonist. I did not like the way that the bad captain went out, and it was mainly the scene where he wets his pants.
Right.
And I don't like it when you have a bad guy throughout a movie or story, and they have been relatively competent to the extent that they can be, and then they just turn out to be a total loser. Like I wanted that guy to fight and be be who he is to the very end. And then I didn't want to just throw him out the door, like, and watch him scrabble at they're basically lifting up the hatch on the ship, and he's like trying to hang on. And that felt kind of ridiculous to me. And also a little bit at the end where they're trying to defuse the bomb. Like I just wanted him to kill him. Like I just wanted him
Right.
to take his head and go like that, and
Right.
but they I guess the movie was almost going to be NC-17 anyway for some reason when they gouged out the eyes, so they
Yeah.
probably couldn't pop any heads.
Well, and I think too, like really quickly, they set up the antagonist as the better, genetically modified guys, and they have this dude that's kind of arrogant, and he's the antagonist and the bad guy. But honestly, you could have done that without having him be an asshole.
Right.
Like you could have just like had him be competent, have him be smart, but he knows that his guys are better, and
Right.
he doesn't have to be, like we talked a couple episodes ago, bad commanders can be incompetent or they can be evil, but you don't have to do either of those to have an antagonistic commander or an element in a military story. You can have a really competent, really smart, non-evil guy as the antagonist, and he still be the antagonist of your story, because this guy hated all of this stuff, and there's no reason for him to hate all this stuff. He could just be like, yeah, your guys are great, man, but mine are better, and I'll prove it to you. And it would have done the same thing, over making him kind of a piece of crap. And it's Jason Isaacs. He does a really good job of playing that really nasty character. I can't see him as anything other than Malfoy in Harry Potter, but I mean, he does a great job at
Oh,
that,
you're
so I'll give
right.
him that.
I wasn't connecting that. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. He seems to always play that kind of character. I don't know if that's his thing, or he's like, I have to play the bad, really nasty guy, but he does a really good job
Did you
at it.
watch him in White Lotus? I think it was season 3 of White Lotus.
I haven't seen it.
He plays so the guy's actually British, I think, but he plays like a CEO from North Carolina. And I mean, I can't like extremely say that accent was perfect, but it really was so different than what I'm used to him doing that
Yeah,
it was entertaining. But yeah, I don't know. I think we're almost out of time, but I would love to hear what other folks think about this movie. And I don't want it to seem like I guess we're criticizing because we love it. I think the one thing for me this movie still does very well is hit an emotion. Like you don't
yeah,
finish this movie, like we really didn't even get into the whole fight scene where he's just destroying all the, like there's supposed to
yeah,
be 17 of them, and I think there's at least like 25, but
yeah. Oh, right.
this is a movie that you end and you're like, yeah, I mean that for me
Well,
that's what I need.
again, I think that if you're looking to better yourself as a storyteller,
Yes.
looking at like different stories from different aspects, and taking the best of those things, like you can look at this and go subtle character building. That's it's a veritable college course in subtle character building. This movie, if you want like really deep macro level storytelling, watch a different one, like I don't know, Saving Private Ryan or something, right? But
Right.
like you watch different movies, you read different books, you get different things from them, and you take all those great things and you use them in your own process.
I think Rick noted previous or recently in the Discord, it's like in a MLSF story, at least, if you build up a bad guy, let your good guy kill him.
Right.
Like nobody wants to see him go away, kill him.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
100%. Yeah.
all right. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us. Let us know what you think. And if you aren't in the Discord, come check us out. The link is also in the show notes. So thanks a lot. We'll see y'all later.